Hello, I'm Donald Leggett, and welcome to the latest Focus IR London South East CEO interview. I'm joined by Kevin Lim, the CEO at Adsure Services, which are a specialist business assurance provider operating across a variety of sectors, including housing, healthcare, government, education, and the charitable sector. Adsure started trading on Aquis this week under the ticker ADS. So welcome, Kevin, and congratulations on being quoted on Aquis.
Thank you, Donald. It's great to be speaking to you today. What a big day that was on Monday. A great experience on a personal level, and the start of our journey in very, very many ways.
Okay, and for those new to Adsure Services, how would you describe the business and the various advisory and assurance services which you provide?
So Adsure Services is a holding company, principal trading entity, TIAA Limited. And as you've said, TIAA Limited is a specialist provider of business assurance services, focusing in assurance and advisory spaces in the public and not-for-profit sectors primarily. Business assurance services in the main is internal audit, scrutiny and compliance-related services. And advisory services range from areas such as anti-crime, security management, digital assurance, information governance, and a lot of other wonderful and interesting areas of those sorts.
Okay, am I right in thinking that the core of the business is internal audit, which presumably gives you a very useful base to cross-sell your services from?
Absolutely. So 70% of the business's revenue is generated through business assurance services, and that provides a platform for other more specialist or niche-related services to be sold on to customers or to provide introductions for other opportunities that may arise.
Because presumably they trust you. Internal audit people must be highly trusted, and so therefore it's possible for you to actually sell in other specialist services.
It's a very interesting relationship. We are a trusted advisor in very many ways to our customers. Really there to help them with dealing with some of their most difficult challenges. In many ways, shapes or forms, we are a critical friend, I think is the key way to look at it, because sometimes the difficult news is the news you need to hear to be able to move forward in a positive journey, and that's what we're here to do.
Okay, that's a very good way of putting it, Kevin. Now, you've just IPO'd on Aquis, but interestingly, you chose not to raise funds. So what's the rationale behind becoming a quoted company? Why become quoted?
So the board have looked at, set out our future strategy, mapped out where we want to be, and we see that this listing puts the business in the best possible opportunity to respond to any opportunities that may arise over the next 2 to 5 years, and also provides us an ability to start to leverage some of the increased publicity that we can generate through being a listed entity, providing, more openness to market investors and to attract opportunities, whether that be looking at diversification and acquisition opportunities that may arise in the future, or an ability to bring in future top talent to help us to diversify services.
Okay, let's drill down on that. What do you mean by diversification? What might that look like? And what acquisitions might possibly be on the horizon one day in the future?
So we have opportunities both to look at how we may diversify the markets that we operate within. We operate across a lot of the public sector, but there are further areas that we could start to look into. Similarly, we can look at broadening the portfolio of services that we provide, especially in the advisory space, to provide us with a broader complement of services that we can offer to existing and new customers. So the opportunities are quite significant, really, for us to look ahead as we look at how really to provide the breadth of services we believe our customers require from us, and secondly, to look at where we believe we can add value to new markets as an organisation with the skills, knowledge and experience that we can bring.
So do you find people have been coming to you and saying, could you do this for us? Could you do that for us? Possibly.
It's always an interesting conversation. There is, in the modern environment, quite a dynamic risk landscape for organisations to operate within. We have quite fast-paced changes in regulation. We just have to look at, some of the things in the press today around the impacts of things like artificial intelligence on decision-making and healthcare in particular. And so there is a never-ending journey, really, of advice and new ways of thinking to look at problems that may not have been posed before. And yes, absolutely, we play a critical role in supporting customers.
And as part of that upgrade of the business, if you like, that modernisation of the business, you've just announced plans to modernise the IT network. What benefits does that bring, do you think?
Absolutely. So modernising our platform just helps us to build resilience and capacity within our networks. It enables us from a back office perspective to look at how we can utilise intelligent automation further within some of our back office processes. And from the front end, from our customers, it really provides them with a platform where we can utilise, more modern techniques to provide them more dynamic ways of supporting them in the future, as well as helping us look at any economies of scale that we can leverage through the outsourcing process.
Okay, business assurance is something that not everyone will be familiar with. So I thought it might be useful to ask if you could give us a couple of case study examples of work that you do with your clients so that we could perhaps understand that business assurance model a little bit better.
So if we, absolutely, if we consider, so it's our core service is our internal audit service. In a large part of the public sector, there is some degree of mandated requirement to receive an internal audit service. And public organisations are required to publish an annual head of internal audit opinion to support their broader suite of corporate governance submissions that go in with their annual accounts. So that means that our head of audit within that organisation will play a critical role for assessing the current risk landscape that organisation faces, looking at the assurances that are currently available to them, and then prioritising any internal audit work that needs to be fitted in within that, and then looking to make observations and recommendations to help the organisation mitigate current risks and put in place controls that may future-proof its systems, or equally remove controls where there may be an ability for that organisation to operate in a more efficient and effective manner.
Okay, and talking of risks, you actually have cybersecurity as one of your services that you provide. So how does that work within the mix?
It's a really interesting environment when we look at some of the cyber threats that are posed in the world today. Goes down to your end users, which unfortunately sometimes are the biggest single point of failure within any process. But at the same time, there's a significant amount of ongoing investment, training and development in protective measures to prevent cyber attacks on an organisation. But at the same time, it would be very dangerous for us to sit here and think that it won't happen to us. So we have to have a preparedness for how we will respond in an incident of cyber attack. And sometimes that response can be critical to mitigating the impact and the scale of the event on an organisation. Our approach really is to assess, both sides of that coin. How well are you doing to block those attempts? And on the flip side, how prepared are you to respond in the event of that occurring?
And if I could take you to the public sector, several local councils such as Birmingham are in severe financial difficulties at the moment. So can you help those in the public sector who are under financial pressures? And talk us through how that might work.
Well, in simple, absolutely. The funding squeeze on public organisations, the dynamic and fluid environments that they operate in, always means there's a need to rethink approaches, to consider future risks, and more strategies organisations can put in place to mitigate the risks that they face. A more modern internal audit service is one that's focused around as much delivering efficiencies within business processes as much as ensuring that we're safeguarding financial assets, reputation, and all those other key important parts of running an organisation. So we seek to provide that balance and to try to be one step ahead of digesting what's happening, what's moving in terms of regulation and the drive and the push to, wherever possible, support organisations to prevent those type of things happening. But in the same time, where they are occurring, we are available to come in and provide some proactive support to look at how we get out of that situation.
Okay, that's an interesting answer, Kevin. Briefly, what does the balance sheet look like, and will you continue to pay a dividend as a listed company? I thought this might be a useful question to ask.
Yes, Todd, absolutely. So March 23 balance sheet, the organisation had net assets of 1.4 million, cash in the bank of 1.8 million, and we expect our interim financial statements to be published by the end of December 23. Historically, the company has had a track record of paying dividends, and we expect that to continue into the future.
Okay. My last question for you. What do you think the business might look like in a couple of years' time? This is a sort of this gets into diversification and your acquisition type thoughts, I think. So what might you look like in the future?
Well, I think from my perspective, I would like to see some further reach into some of our core markets. There's a lot of opportunity out there for us, and I'd like us to be leveraging, any increased exposure that we're getting today with some of the steps we've put in place to really improve the quality and the dynamic of services that we can provide to organisations. But at the same time, I would hope that we're in a position to be looking at how we may have successfully diversified either into new markets or broadening those range of services and products that we can make available to existing customers. It's a quite exciting time ahead.
And Kevin Lim, CEO at Adsure Services, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for putting the business in context. That was absolutely terrific. For more company information and to access the company bulletin board, please go to the Adsure Services page on London South East. And meanwhile, do follow us on Twitter. That will be @_FocusIR_ and @London South East, or register on London South East YouTube to receive alerts to our next Adsure Services interview. Thank you so much for joining us today.